Hello everyone, my name is Stas, and today I will tell you about the plot of the 2019 miniseries called How Long Does Love Last, which tells the story of a very captivating relationship between a high school student and his math teacher.
Ты почему такая красивая?
Потому что я пью кровь своих учеников.
The miniseries begins with us being shown the main character named Alexander, who 10 years after graduating from school has achieved great success in his business. A corporate event is taking place to celebrate this. At the event, he introduces his wife, who was once his teacher a long time ago. After that, we are taken back to the origins of their acquaintance. Back then, 10 years ago, Sasha was a second-year student who was always late to class. One day after entering the math classroom, already after the lesson has started, the student meets the new teacher, whose name is Vera Alekseevna. The guy, acting like a show-off, starts behaving provocatively, which quickly gets him kicked out of the classroom. A moment later, the teacher decides to check on the troublesome student, but he has already vanished without a trace. As it turns out, Alexander is what to do besides studying. He works as a courier at the pizzeria. In the next lesson, the guy behaves badly again, and Vera Alekseevna decides to teach him a lesson. Locked in the classroom, after a while, she simply forgets about him. While sharing the way home with her jealous husband, Nikolai, the woman suddenly remembers the locked-up student and asks the driver to turn back. Finding the show-off in the classroom and feeling a sense of guilt, Vera makes him an awkward proposal.
Но я вижу, что ты неплохой парень, и, может быть, мы как-то сможем с тобой...
Что сможем?
Later, she decides to talk to Alexander's mother, but she doesn't have the courage to accuse the guy of bad behavior. Instead, she suggests organizing extra math classes with him. After several such additional lessons, Sasha asks the teacher to button the top buttons of her blouse, and then he even confesses his love to her. Unable to handle the tension, the student runs out of the classroom. In the evening, Vera receives romantic text messages from an unknown number. She decides that it's Alexander. When Nikolai asks who is texting her, she hides the details, fearing jealousy and scandals. In the morning, the woman receives another message and decides to respond seriously to the student so that he won't text her anymore. But, as it turned out, it was her husband behind those texts. Suspecting his wife of cheating, Nikolai invites her to the bedroom, where he hits her hard in the face. But she does it in a way that their daughter Polina doesn't suspect anything. When Sasha finds out that instead of math, there will be Russian language class because Vera Alekseevna can't come to school, he decides to visit his favorite teacher. Reaching the right house and apartment, he confesses his love to Vera once again and asks for her forgiveness. To this awkward situation, the student, thinking that he is the reason for her absence, persuades the woman not to quit her job. At that moment, Polina appears in the hallway, which embarrasses the guy and forces him to leave. When she meets her mother, the daughter notices a bruise on her face and suspects that it was caused by the schoolboy. The next morning, the teachers find an anonymous note. It states that Alexander is the one responsible for the classmate's pregnancy. Soon Vera realizes that this whole situation is the work of her daughter, who decided to get back at the guy for his supposed violence. On the same day, the police arrive at the school to arrest the guy. Vera tries to defend Alexander, but they still take him to the station. After some time, the pregnant girl confesses that she is in a relationship with another young man, and then they let Sasha go. When evening comes, the student and the teacher meet again on the street. During this meeting, the schoolboy blurts out a promise that he will win the favor of his beloved woman at any cost. Naturally, Vera doesn't believe such an outcome is possible because she is at least twice the age of her student. A little later, the teacher spends time in a cafe with her colleague Svetlana Denadyevna. Their conversation is interrupted by a call from her jealous husband, who is now preoccupied with all sorts of checks. In the evening, the family returns home and runs into Alexander in the elevator. At night, the woman can't sleep because of the loud music from the neighbors upstairs. Vera decides to visit the noisy neighbors and resolve the situation. It turns out that Alexander didn't run into her in the elevator by chance. He rented an apartment above her family's place so he could see her more often. A couple of days go by. The married couple is having lunch with Svetlana Denadyevna. As soon as Vera goes to the bathroom, Nikolai decides to chat with her colleague to learn more about his wife and her relationships with other men at work. In the evening, Alexander and Vera meet again in the elevator. The student stops the elevator to talk face to face. He is convinced that a relationship between them is possible. But Vera proves the opposite. Sasha acted brazenly, and for that he got a nice slap in the face. A few more days go by, before Vera is once again forced to visit the neighbor upstairs, this time due to a leak. After knocking and getting no response, the woman discovers that the front door is open. Finding the immobilized guy in the bathroom, Vera assumed he was feeling unwell, but it all turned out to be a clever plan for another private meeting. Embracing the woman, he suggests that they take a bath together, but she firmly declines. Vera leaves, but a moment later he comes back and pounces on his student. When Nikolai gets home, he gifts his unfaithful wife a piece of jewelry, expecting gratitude in bed. At night, he suggests that Vera repay him for the gift, but she cleverly declines, convincing her husband that her heart is acting a bit strangely.
Ну да. А что-то как-то покалывает.
Ты полежи вот так вот, спокойно. Хорошо?
Ага.
The next morning during class, the teacher notices that Alexander is flirting with his classmate and jealousy awakens in her. In the evening, Vera asks her neighbor to move out, as nothing will happen between them. The schoolboy disagrees and takes the willing teacher to his place, leading to another in-depth study of mathematics. Soon, Vera and Alexander start a relationship, meeting more often. They secretly meet in his apartment. The woman admits there have only been two men in her life, her husband and Alexander. She used to work at a large IT company and had many promising ideas, but because of Nikolai's jealousy, she had to quit her job. She suggests to Sasha that he get to know her business projects, as he has all the qualities needed to implement one of them. On her way home, Vera runs into her husband and lies, saying she was taking out the trash. Nikolai quickly realizes that this is not the case, and he wants to hit his wife, but she forbids him to raise his hand against her and leaves the house. In the evening, she meets with Alexander and suggests that they stop seeing each other, but the guy is against it because he is madly in love with her. The teacher also wants to be with him. A little later, the woman returns home and meets her husband, who is on his knees begging for her forgiveness. Sometime later, Nikolai picks up a hidden surveillance camera from work and installs it in his home to keep an eye on his wife. While on a business trip, he sees that Vera isn't spending the night at home and is convinced that she is cheating on him with someone. One morning, Vera's whole family is heading to school. Upon arrival, Nikolai allows only his daughter to get out of the car. He then continues on his way and promises his wife that he won't let her go until she confesses to her infidelities. Realizing that she's in a tough spot, Vera lies to Nikolai and claims that she's secretly seeing the gym teacher. Nikolai returns to the school and, locking his wife in the car, takes a piece of rebar from the trunk. The self-assured husband attacks the teacher, but the latter easily handles the aggressive fool. As a result, Nikolai suffers a concussion and several broken ribs. In the evening, Alexander calls Vera and comes over. The couple can't contain their passion and has no idea that Polina was awake and saw everything from start to finish. The next morning, the girl runs away from home to the hospital to tell her father the whole truth. The daughter is disappointed in her mother because she betrayed the family by choosing a young man. At school, they also find out that the teacher is dating her student.
Ну и чем вы там занимались на этих занятиях?
Алгеброй.
Trying to avoid a scandal, Vera gets fired from the school. Returning home, the woman packs her things and leaves to be with her younger partner. Alexander soon admits that his mother knows that he is living with a woman twice his age and, to put it mildly, is against their relationship. Despite this, Vera and Alexander are honest with each other, so they decide to ignore what others think. A little while later, the student quits his job and drops out of school, after which he starts focusing on a promising business idea for developing a mobile app. A few months later, Polina and Nikolai go to the courthouse, where the girl has to decide who she will stay with. Since the daughter is disappointed in her mother, she easily chooses her father's side. As a result, Vera loses her parental rights, after which the couple finally gets divorced. Nikolai openly mocks his wife, hinting that she is old compared to Alexander, and sooner or later, he will definitely leave her. A little later, the couple in question enters a cafe, where the waitress treats them like a mother and son. This really affects Vera. To prove that he doesn't care about what people think, Alexander kisses his beloved, shocking everyone present. Svetlana Gennadyevna visits Nikolai and treats him, showing her sympathy. The man reacts negatively to the teacher and kicks her out because she is too old for him. Vera and Alexander decide to get married, but they are denied because of their significant age difference. Defending his rights, the schoolboy convinces the registrar, after which they are allowed to legalize their relationship. A few months later, Alexander and his programmer friends launch the mobile app and sign a contract with a major IT company. Seeing young guys as a potential threat, the heads of the small departments try to put them in their place. They assign them an office without windows or computers, but that doesn't stop the former students. A little later, Alexander is offered a position, but in a small town far from the capital. He thinks he will agree, but Vera is completely against it because he should reach the top at the main office, not at its remote branch. 9 years later, Alexander becomes the president of the company and invites his wife to a party celebrating his promotion. The attendees are shocked that the young guy has a 17-year age difference with his wife. Sometime later, Vera announces that she is pregnant. Meanwhile, Polina starts dating a guy who works as a paramedic. Nikolai is completely against his daughter talking to him and forces her to ignore his calls. The girl is having a really hard time with this, and she starts having an asthma attack, which developed after her parents' divorce. Soon, Vera visits the gynecologist and learns that the hormonal changes are not related to pregnancy but to aging, and as a result, she will no longer be able to have children. Returning to the office, she tells her husband about it, and the couple takes the unpleasant news seriously. Polina gets a job as a judge, continuing her father's career achievements. She is frustrated with this job because the girl has to be harsh towards defenseless people. Vera accidentally overhears her subordinates discussing her and Alexander, as well as his taste in clothing. Deciding to change everything, the woman throws out her husband's ties and signs up for breast lift surgery. Hoping that this will bring her youth back, she meets Svetlana Gennadievna again at the cafe, who is shocked. The fact that she became the wife of a schoolboy she dated 10 years ago. Soon, Vera starts to feel jealous of Alexander's subordinates because they are younger and more attractive. The couple argues over jealousy, but the husband calms his wife down, proving that he only needs her. During a dinner with his mother, unpleasant facts about Vera's age also come up. Meanwhile, Alexander goes to a class reunion where he meets his classmate Svetlana. After drinking too much, he cheats on his wife and hides the fact. Sometime later, the couple decides to adopt a child. They attend preparatory courses and talk to a psychologist, but they are denied because Vera had her parental rights revoked 10 years ago. Meanwhile, Polina runs away from her tyrant father, who hit her in the face. Alexander and Vera are looking for a surrogate mother, but they doubt whether they made the right decision. Vera is ready to leave her husband so he can find a young girl, but Alexander is against it. Soon, Svetlana comes to Alexander's office and announces that she is pregnant. She also believes that the child should be born and raised in a family. A year later, Alexander and Svetlana get married and soon they have offspring. Polina and Vera have made up now. The daughter of the former teacher is a happy wife of a paramedic, and she herself has become a grandmother. Lonely. Nikolai notices a teacher on a dating app and decides to change his attitude towards her. At the end of the series, we see how Alexander and Vera are secretly meeting to keep their math skills up to date. This series is quite an emotional project which is mostly very plausible. The only issue is the ending, which I didn't like. What's the logic in leaving your woman for a younger one, only to end up seeing her anyway? Personally, I can't understand that. At the time of this retelling, the miniseries has a 6.2 rating on IMDB. How would you rate this film? Be sure to write your thoughts in the comments. This brings us to the end of our video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you found it interesting, then be sure to support this video with a like and the channel with a subscription so as not to miss new releases. Well, that was Stas, who is already preparing a new recap for you. Stay healthy, watch only good movies, and play only good games. Good luck to everyone and goodbye.